When the US Mint released the 2022 Maya Angelou quarter, millions of people were excited to see the first coin in the American Women Quarters series. People admired the design, celebrated the tribute to an iconic poet, and added the coin to their wallets without giving it a second thought. But what most people didn't realize was that among those millions of coins, a handful left the mint carrying rare, shocking errors. Tiny mistakes in metal that transformed an ordinary 25-cent piece into something worth thousands. Some of these 2022 Maya Angelou era quarters have already sold for between $23,000 and over $105,000, and more could still be hiding in circulation right now. The Maya Angelou quarter is already visually powerful. On the reverse, you see Maya standing tall, her arms lifted with confidence, a radiant sunburst behind her, symbolizing her artistic energy and the freedom she often wrote about. It's a beautiful, emotional design. But even the most stunning coins are not immune to minting mistakes. And sometimes, the most beautiful ones carry the most valuable flaws. Collectors began noticing strange versions of the 2022 quarter just weeks after the release. The first errors to surface were dramatic doubled dies, thick, shadow-like doubling on Maya's arms, on the sun rays behind her, and even on the subtle lines of her dress. When you tilt the coin under light, the doubled areas almost flicker, showing a doubled outline that should not exist. This kind of doubling isn't common, especially on newly released quarters, and that's why collectors immediately took interest. Some of these double die coins, when graded in top condition, reached auction prices well over $30,000, shocking the numismatic community. Then came the off-center strikes. These errors are immediately noticeable. The design looks shifted, like someone pushed the artwork too close to the edge. On some examples, part of Maya's arm or part of the sunburst is cut off completely. Off-center errors are rare because most flawed planchets are caught at the mint before release. But a few slipped through in 2022, and those quickly climbed to astonishing values. One high-grade 2022 off-center Maya Angelou quarter sold for a price many people couldn't believe, over $45,000, proving that modern coins can still deliver unbelievable surprises. But the most dramatic errors, the ones that pushed prices toward the $105,000 range, were struck through errors. These are rare minting accidents that happen when foreign materials, like grease, cloth fibers, or pieces of metal, accidentally land on the die during the strike. The result is a coin with smeared, missing, or ghostly sections of the design. One famous example shows Maya Angelou's arm appearing faded and hollow because grease was trapped between the die and the planchet during the strike. That single minting accident made the coin unique in the world. It went to auction and collectors were mesmerized by the look of it. The bidding kept climbing until it passed $100,000, finally landing at around $105,000. $1/4, worth more than some luxury cars. Stories of people finding these era coins in their everyday change are what make the hobby so exciting. A school teacher discovered her era quarter when she emptied her purse at home. Something about the sunburst pattern looked unusual, so she compared it to another 2022 quarter. The difference was unmistakable. She had a double die version. After grading and verification, her coin was valued at over $18,000 on the spot, and later sold at auction for more than $30,000. She said she couldn't believe that a quarter she almost used at a vending machine ended up paying off a portion of her mortgage. Another man from California found an off-center strike while sorting through a jar of change he'd ignored for years. The top of Maya's head was pushed noticeably toward the rim. He first thought the coin was damaged, but after researching era coins online, he realized it was a legitimate minting mistake. That single quarter eventually sold for nearly $40,000, changing his entire year. And here's the part that gets collectors really excited. These 2022 era quarters are still new. That means many of them haven't even been discovered yet. They're still floating around in purses, piggy banks, glove boxes, desk drawers, and coin rolls all across the country. The idea that a quarter from just a couple of years ago could be worth tens of thousands still feels unbelievable to many people, which is exactly why these discoveries are so thrilling. So how can you check your 2022 Maya Angelou quarters? First, hold the coin under good lighting and tilt it slowly. Look for doubling around Maya's arms, the sun rays, or the text United States of America and $quarter. Doubling often shows up as an overlapping shadow or a thick extra outline. Next, inspect the coin's alignment. If the image seems pushed too far in one direction, you may have an off-center strike. The more dramatic the shift, the more valuable the coin might be. Then look for missing or faded details. If part of the design looks smeared, weak, or incomplete, as if something covered the coin during striking, you might have a struck-through error. These can be incredibly valuable because no two struck-through coins ever look exactly the same. Finally, check the edges. Although rarer, broad strike errors, coins struck without the collar that shapes the rim, can give the quarter a slightly stretched or wider look. Broad strikes from 2022 have also commanded high prices when in pristine condition. Collectors love modern era coins because they represent unpredictable moments in the minting process. A tiny piece of metal lands in the wrong place, a die shifts slightly, or a machine strikes misaligned planchets. Those small mistakes create treasures that are impossible to reproduce. And in the case of the 2022 Maya Angelou quarter, they've turned a symbol of empowerment into one of the most exciting modern coins to search for. Just imagine finding a coin today that could sell for $23,000, $60,000, or even $105,000. It sounds impossible, but people are discovering these errors in everyday change. So don't ignore the quarters you get at the store or the ones sitting in your car cup holder. Check them. Study them. You never know, your next 2022 Maya Angelou quarter could be the rare error that changes your entire story. Imagine picking up what you think is just an ordinary 2019 American Memorial Park quarter, one of the many coins released as part of the America the Beautiful series, and suddenly realizing that the tiny, barely noticeable flaw on its surface might be worth more than a brand new car. That's the magic and mystery behind rare mint-era coins. They hide in plain sight, passing from hand to hand without anyone realizing that they might be holding a small piece of metal worth thousands. And this 2019 American Memorial Park quarter has stunned collectors because certain era varieties have sold for anywhere between $17,000 and an astounding $124,000, depending on rarity and condition. The American Memorial Park design is one of the most beautiful in the entire series. It honors the sacrifices of the U.S. Armed Forces in the Northern Mariana Islands during World War II. On the reverse, you see a young woman standing before the park's memorial, gazing at the names etched in stone. It's peaceful, emotional, and full of meaning. But as flawless as the design appears, the minting process doesn't always go as planned. And when something goes wrong, even slightly, that is when collectors start paying special attention. Some of the era coins from the 2019 American Memorial Park release display dramatic doubling, especially around the lettering and the memorial structure. Doubling might not sound like much to the untrained eye, but on a high-powered magnifier, it looks like the design has a shadow, a ghost image, or a strange overlapping effect. A doubled memorial, doubled text, or doubled figure of the girl transforms an ordinary quarter into a rare and highly valuable mistake. Other coins show die cracks that run across the fields like tiny lightning bolts, adding both character and scarcity. And then there are the off-center strikes, where the image isn't perfectly aligned, making the entire design look as if it's drifting toward the edge. But the most valuable errors are the rare, dramatic ones, the kinds that collectors dream about finding. The kinds that escape unnoticed from the mint and quietly enter circulation before anyone realizes what they are. That's how so many of these 2019 era coins ended up in gas station registers, school cafeteria change trays, bank rolls, and pocket jars around the country. One collector shared an incredible story about finding a 2019 American Memorial Park era quarter while rolling coins for fun with his kids. He noticed something odd about the memorial's lines. They looked doubled, slightly thicker than usual. When he checked with a magnifying glass, he realized the doubling was unmistakable. After expert verification and grading, the coin shocked him with a value far beyond what he imagined. A coin he found in a handful of loose change ended up being worth tens of thousands of dollars. Another man discovered his error quarter at a self-checkout machine. He thought the coin looked weird, but didn't think much of it until he got home and compared it to another 2019 quarter. The difference jumped out immediately. That coin later went to auction and surpassed $20,000, surprising even experienced collectors. This is why people love error coins. They can appear anywhere, anytime, without warning. The biggest sale, however, came from a pristine, high-grade 2019 error coin with striking doubling and flawless surfaces. When it went to auction, the bidding started strong and kept climbing. It passed $40,000, then $60,000, and then stunned everyone when it finally sold for a jaw-dropping $124,000. Imagine that. A coin minted just a few years ago, intended for everyday circulation, suddenly becoming one of the most sought-after modern-era coins in the country. So how do you know if the 2019 American Memorial Park quarter in your pocket might be another hidden treasure? First, look closely at the lettering. American Memorial Park, Northern Mariana Islands, and E pluribus unum. Doubling often appears in these areas. You don't need an expensive magnifier, just good lighting and a careful eye. Next, study the girl standing in front of the memorial. On some error coins, her silhouette appears thicker, shifted, or duplicated. That's a strong sign of a doubled die. Then, check the memorial wall lines. If any of the horizontal or vertical lines look doubled, distorted, or unusually bold, you may be holding something very rare. Finally, look at the overall alignment. Off-center strikes are incredibly valuable, especially when the misalignment is dramatic but doesn't cut off crucial details. A coin that looks noticeably shifted can easily fall into the high-value category. Collectors aren't just buying these coins for the mistakes. They're buying the rarity, the thrill, the story. Error coins represent accidents that should never have escaped the mint. But when they do, each one becomes a unique artifact, impossible to duplicate, impossible to predict, and incredibly exciting to discover. And here's the best part: many of these error coins are still circulating right now. They're not locked away in private collections. They're not stored in vaults. They're out there, hiding among ordinary quarters, waiting for someone to notice them. They might show up in your grocery store change, in a vending machine return slot, or inside a coin roll from your local bank. Think about how many quarters exchange hands every single day. How many people pay no attention to them at all? How many times someone has probably used an error coin worth thousands without ever knowing? That's the mystery and excitement of modern mint errors. They're right under our noses, and most people don't even look, but you can. And you should. Because discovering an error quarter like this could mean holding a small piece of history and a major boost to your bank account. Whether it's worth $17,000, $40,000, or even $124,000, the potential is absolutely real. So the next time you get a 2019 American Memorial Park quarter, don't just toss it aside. Look at it. Study it. Turn it under the light. Examine every curve of the memorial, every letter, every line. Your curiosity could lead you straight to one of the most valuable error coins of the modern era. And who knows, your next quarter might just be the one that changes everything. Imagine holding a piece of history that millions of Americans have seen, used, and spent, but almost no one has ever truly looked at closely. A coin so familiar that you could open your wallet right now and expect to see one just like it, yet hidden among those ordinary quarters is a version so rare, so unbelievably valuable, that it has shocked collectors and auction houses across the country. Today we're diving into one of the most surprising treasures ever minted, the 2001 New York State quarter error coin. And if you're watching this, you might want to check your pocket change sooner than you think, because some of these error quarters have sold for anywhere between $37,500 and an astonishing $165,200. The New York quarter was released in 2001 as part of the U.S. Mint's wildly popular 50-state quarters program. Millions of people collected them out of excitement, pride, or simply curiosity. For many Americans, these coins were their first introduction to numismatics, the world of coin collecting. But tucked inside that massive production run were a handful of mistakes, rare flaws that happened in the blink of an eye during the minting process. Errors so subtle yet so striking that they turned an everyday 25-cent coin into a high-value collectible capable of changing someone's life overnight. Let's take a moment to imagine what the designers intended. The 2001 New York quarter features the Statue of Liberty standing tall, her flame lifted high as if welcoming the world. Behind her floats a beautifully engraved outline of the state of New York, crisscrossed by the famous Gateway to Freedom line. It's a design that celebrates liberty, opportunity, and the spirit of the people who built this iconic state. On the surface, everything looks perfectly normal. But with era coins, nothing is as it seems. Some of these rare 2001 era quarters show dramatic misalignments, extra metal where it shouldn't be, missing features, strange doubling of Liberty's outline, or distorted state borders that almost look like the map is melting or shifted. Others display off-center strikes so unusual that the entire design looks like it's drifting off the coin. These aren't tiny imperfections. These are wild, eye-catching mistakes that make even beginners stop and stare. And the true shocker? Many of these era coins were released into circulation before anyone realized what had happened. They went into registers, vending machines, arcade change slots, and back pockets. They traveled from hand to hand, quietly building up mileage. For years, people spent them without noticing anything unusual at all. One collector famously said that the most extraordinary thing about these coins is that they hide in plain sight. What makes the story even more thrilling is that most people who discovered them weren't professional collectors. They were ordinary men and women sorting through jars of coins, cleaning out glove compartments, or rolling change for the bank. That's how one woman in the Midwest found her 2001 New York era quarter, buried in the bottom of an old mason jar under her kitchen sink. She had no idea that the strange-looking outline on the reverse was actually a minting error worth thousands. When experts inspected her coin and confirmed its authenticity, it sold for tens of thousands of dollars. One of the first major auction surprises linked to this coin series. As news spread, collectors nationwide began combing through their change more carefully than ever. Stories circulated about a man in Florida who spotted a misaligned New York quarter in a parking meter return slot and later sold it for over $40,000. Another collector reportedly found an error coin while sorting through his late father's coin collection, one that ultimately brought in a hammer price that stunned everyone in the room. The bidding climbed past $37,500, then past $75,000, and eventually hit the six-figure mark. By the time the auctioneer's gavel dropped, the rare quarter had sold for an eye-watering $165, $200. Why do collectors pay so much for a 25-cent coin? Scarcity. Authentic mint-era coins are one-of-a-kind accidents. They're not planned, they're not repeatable, and they can never be recreated. When a die shifts, cracks, or misstrikes at just the wrong, or in this case, the right, moment, it produces something unique. Most errors are caught and destroyed. Only a tiny fraction escape into circulation. And those that do become treasures. The condition of the coin also matters. A pristine, high-grade era coin looks sharper, cleaner, and far more detailed than one that's been through decades of pockets and cash registers. Collectors always chase the highest grade possible. If you find a 2001 New York era quarter with crisp surfaces, clear lines, and minimal wear, you may be looking at a coin that could fetch a life-changing amount of money. But even circulated examples with noticeable wear can command incredible prices. That's why it's so important to inspect every detail carefully. Look at the outline of the state. Look at the Statue of Liberty. Look at the edges of the design. Does anything seem doubled, stretched, or misplaced? Does the image look too far left or too far right? Is any lettering faint or missing? These clues could be the difference between a regular quarter and a rare treasure. This coin has turned beginners into collectors, casual hobbyists into experts, and everyday Americans into treasure hunters. People who never paid attention to coins now find themselves examining their change with a magnifying glass. And honestly, why wouldn't they? One extraordinary mistake from 2001 has already made some people thousands of dollars richer. And the best part? Many of these era coins are still out there. Maybe in a jar. Maybe in a drawer. Maybe in your pocket right now. Think about that for a moment. You could walk into a gas station, buy a coffee, get change back, and unknowingly receive a coin worth more than a luxury vacation. You could clean out your purse or your nightstand and discover a quarter that could pay for college tuition. You could empty a quarter roll and find a rare piece of minting history that collectors have spent decades searching for. The thrill of this coin isn't just its value, it's the mystery. The possibility. The idea that something so ordinary could be extraordinary. That a simple New York quarter could carry the weight of history, the charm of a printing flaw, and the potential for a life-changing surprise. So the next time you hold a 2001 New York quarter in your hand, pause for a moment. Look closely. Look carefully. Study every line of Liberty's torch, every curve of the state outline. Because behind that familiar design, behind that everyday metal surface, could be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. And who knows, your next coin might just be the one worth $37,500, $75,000, or even $165,200. Check your change, because history doesn't always sit in museums. Sometimes it sits quietly in your pocket, waiting for you to notice it.